And welcome to another live, whatever this is. It's not really Toy Guys talking, it's Wrestling Guys talking. And awesome Steve Glosson is joining me again today. I already asked you how you were doing, but I guess for the purpose of the chat.
Yeah.
How are you doing since I asked you a minute ago?
Still pretty good. Can't complain. Things are really enjoying it here. Really enjoying being with you, and looking forward to talking some fun wrestling stuff. Listen, you know where to find me if you're after me. You just come on. So, in the words of, to paraphrase one CM Punk, but
who is one of the best dressed wrestlers? I'll go there. I just saw Bob pop in there and pop right out. Bob, come on back, Bob. We're ready for you. We're ready for your run-in.
He's trying to do a run-in, and then he got scared.
I'll say a couple hellos while we're waiting to kick this off. Joe, glad you're excited. ECM, MC, ACDC. Dale, always good to see you. Everybody has their favorite wrestler. Mine is Mick Foley. Bang, bang. Mr. Bang, bang. Ken, how you doing? And Gaz, good to see you. Patreon tribe in the house. We got the Patreon deal in the bottom corner there if you want to join the Patreon. I also got this deal right here, the yellow Intercontinental belt, because we're going to be talking about best wrestler outfits. That doesn't necessarily mean a jacket or a robe. Sometimes it's face paint. Sometimes it's the belt. And I love what the Warrior Man, the dearly departed, maybe not dearly. Warrior is, did you ever see his eulogy for Randy Savage?
No.
Man, that is some good stuff. For the Warrior haters out there, I just say, okay, but did you watch the final couple of years of his life?
I think that's the key. Yeah.
Because there's the stuff when he was younger and he had a giant chip on his shoulder. And, he dealt with a lot of rough stuff growing up. He had a guidance counselor telling him, shut up, put your silly dreams away and go get a job at the mine. And I think that's unacceptable for a guidance counselor to be telling a young kid who just wanted to be a chiropractor. That was his dream.
Wow.
So, but his, yeah. Hey, Will, how you doing? Rick the Model Martel. That's a good one, actually.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is a good one.
I am a model. And they thought he couldn't be a heel. But anyway, the last couple of years of Warrior Man's life, he didn't always tame down. I mean, he did some workouts in the Warrior Barn Gym, and he was still as intense as ever. They warned him, you'll have a heart attack. And they don't seem to understand. That's probably exactly how he wanted to go. He had such a spectacular, massive heart attack that I think the doctors were almost in awe of it. Like, we've never seen a heart explode this
wow
spectacularly. And it would be him. And it would be him as well. What is this? It's the Commander.
Wow.
I knew you would walk off those spores from G.I. Joe the movie.
Oh, it's a Halloween theme, and we're ready to rock and roll, Daddy. What is going on, Double M? How's it hanging, my man?
Good to see you, Bob.
Good to see you too. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulties. My wires were crossed.
No worries, man.
I was confused. I was bumfuzzled. I was hoodwinked, flim flam, shim shammed, and bamboozled. Now ready to have a good time. What's going on, Steve?
How's it going, man?
Laying low, brother, doing the thing.
Brother, you came in bringing the energy. I was like, well, I'll just be low key and match Mercy's chill. And here you come. And I'm like, well, now I got to ramp it up a notch.
You never stop. And you know what keeps you going, Double M and Steve? I'll tell you right now, what keeps me going is the smooth, refreshing taste of Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar Cream Soda.
Let me go solo layout. Do it. Do it to it, brother. Do it.
And I just want to let everybody know in the Patreon tribe for Double M, Michael Mercy, and I want to let everybody know in the Bob Squad, Dr. Pepper Cream Soda Zero Sugar has the same great refreshing taste as regular Dr. Pepper Cream Soda, but none of the sugar, none of the calories. Go to Coca-Cola.com/Dr. Pepper /Cream Soda /.0. Enter promo code Bob Squad. Nothing happens. It's a waste of time. I don't even drink it simply.
Nothing ever happens. Nothing means nothing.
I think I'm thinking what you think you're thinking.
Steve, I gotta say, the chill thing, my secret, chronic pain.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That's what it is. Well, it's not oming, it's not it's chronic pain. It'll take it out of you. So I don't know. I guess I try to always be an optimist and a glass half full type of guy, and I guess it mellows you out.
I guess so.
I fizzle out after 5 minutes too, for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Can't keep that up. That's exhausting.
That's a young man's game.
double M, double J.
Double M is greater than double J.
I don't know about that.
I was thinking of double A, the enforcer, but
Oh man, that's an honor.
but we
Double
can
A
do
is one of
J
my
too, if
favorites.
you like. Yeah.
Double A is one of my favorites. He would not make this list.
No, not
Um,
at all. Not
'cause
not
there
with a
are-
Yankees hat.
I mean, there are great wrestlers. We're not talking about great wrestlers today, though. We're talking about a component of a great wrestler. And do you guys know about? Let me go over to. Is it showing this? I don't think it's showing this.
I'm seeing a bunch of Macho Man pictures,
Yeah, that's not right.
It's always right.
but he's on the list, man. He's
Oh,
on-
absolutely. Yeah, we're that's not what I want to show at the moment, though. Let me go here. Share.
You were talking about Warrior for a second there, and one of the things that I put down
Oh, right.
was like 90s Warrior with the trench coat. His trench coat
The
look in the
duster.
90s when he was in WCW. Now his performance there wasn't the greatest, but I dug his trench coat look.
Yeah, the duster. Where
Yeah.
I was going with that was so in his later years, Warrior would sometimes just sit and have a poignant conversation with the camera. It was, it was very poignant. So for this snarling monster that everyone thought was incoherent, those heart to heart injections of inspiration, some of them were really thought provoking. And when he did the kind of a eulogy for Randy Savage, it was very heartfelt. And at the end, I mean, the dude was so real. You say rest in peace and, Godspeed. But Warrior caught himself saying that. He's like, that, I know that wouldn't work for you because they were cut from the same cloth. And so Warrior said, Randy, I hope somewhere you're in a Mad Max world. I hope that's your afterlife. Not heaven, not Valhalla, but some kind of Mad Max world, just living in the danger zone.
There you
And,
go. Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that would
It gets
be.
to you after a while.
Uh,
It's a lightning bolt.
So I got it here before we start talking about costumes and whatnot. You guys know about Power Town wrestling figures?
No.
Okay, so this is
No.
kind of related because these are new wrestling figures in the scale of the WWE and AEW wrestling figures, but they're of figures that either, like, there was a Kerry Von Erich figure by Mattel, but so rare they didn't make very many, and it's so expensive to get now. So this is a chance at some of the not as well known wrestling figures and some of their ring gear. So gotta love that Von Erich country jacket.
Yeah. Now, are we looking at like a soft goods jacket or?
They look plastic to me.
Underwear?
Looks plastic to me, but Stan the Man.
Wow.
Uncle Stan.
Yeah, the lariat. He's got the chaps and the vest. So not just cool figures, but they've really went all out with the accessories too. And they come with the belts too. Kerry here comes with the world class.
I guess what I'm asking is
No.
that jacket removable?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is. So I don't know if you can. Yeah, you can pop the hands off and just
Yeah.
slip the jacket off. There's a couple of Mattel figures that have come with jackets like that.
Mhm.
In fact, this guy right here, let me go into solo layout. And this Stinger that I'm
Yeah.
pointing at right here, exact same type of jacket. You get zilch movement in the arms when he's wearing the big rigid jacket, but still it's a jacket, right? So
Is that
it's
this
cool.
guy? Is this the same one?
Yes, that's it. And
really?
that
'Cause I was looking at
definitely
I guess I did think it was more of a statue almost than anything.
Yeah, and that definitely makes my list. That Stinger, it's one of my favorite Surfer Stinger outfits. And here's Magnum TA as well with his.
Oh wow!
Yes, and the big thing, the big accessory is the U.S. title, the Luger
Yeah.
belt. Comes
Wow!
with the Luger belt. Yeah, so there was a Magnum TA figure as well, but it's cool to see another one, definitely, and one with the jacket and the U.S. title. Love Magnum TA, the original boss, and Lou, Uncle Lou,
Oh, cool.
with his good old bathrobe. So it's awesome that they're going even further back than the
Yeah,
80s
man.
and 70s, and they're doing Lou with, like, look at that classic, basically like belt buckle belt. That looks awesome. And then, of course, you got the Vern Gagne right there.
Oh dear.
Yeah, pop your head off there. Put you in a sugar hold.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. I don't have any yet. So they're a new company. It's always a bit of a gamble when you pick up a new figure, a new product from a new company with no track record. So, if you want to pick those up, I'm probably going to grab the Von Erich, because how many Kerry Von Erich figures do you see? And he's one of my all-time favorites. But just a heads up. Most people should know this, should go without saying, but don't blame me if you have a horrific experience with this or any company that I recommend.
I'm looking at their website now. You've turned me on this thing. I don't really collect a lot of wrestling figures. The Sting that I just showed was one that was gifted to me, but how amazing. They've got a Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
We're looking at, they look to be about $45 each, which really isn't bad for, I guess, what you'd consider a boutique figure.
Right. Like short run, there's Bruiser.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got the fuzzy vest and the chain, fuzzy boots, the major forehead damage. There's a picture of it right here. Yeah. Looking cool, man. I'm looking forward to them doing some of my all-time favorites that don't get a lot of attention, like Beautiful Bobby, Barry Windham.
Yeah.
Are they doing a Beautiful Bobby or even a Sweet Stan Lane? Do you know?
I hope so, man. Midnight Express, even a 3-pack.
Well, if I may, I should really there's my guy. I'm a card carrying member. It's like I've been knighted. My double M. I got my certificate. I'm an official member.
Oh my God.
Nice.
That's amazing.
The greatest man ever to live on Earth, I think, signed this, and I framed it. It's weird. I feel different now. I think I just want people to just talk to me like I'm a regular person, though.
Done.
I'm very excited.
I want to read this one by Dale. When I met the Ultimate Warrior, 3 hours in a line, he made sure everybody got an autograph. I can't say anything bad about the Ultimate Warrior. Again, I say, for those who aren't a fan of Warrior because of his past deeds, I'm not justifying them or anything like that. I don't even know, what those situations were. If he, held up or didn't meet a sick kid or something. There's one story about that. That's awful. But I've seen the videos that he put up on his YouTube channel in the final years of his life where the dude stood. He would not sit. He insisted on standing. Give me a podium. And that way of communicating with people will rattle a lot of, especially like quieter, more mild-mannered, kind of anxious people. But, give me a stand. I want to stand and look people in the eye, shake their hand. And I saw like hour-long video of him wanting to talk to every person, and they're hurrying him along. Mr. Warrior, please. He's like, no, I want to talk to people. I want to make sure that they're happy with their picture. If they're not, then we're going to take another one. And
Nice.
I just saw a really genuine dude. So that's that.
Well, to bring back Cornette, Bob, I don't know, have you met Cornette before?
Never. He doesn't leave the house, and I kind of respect that.
About, I guess it's been 7 or 8 years ago. I was at a Fan Fest event where actually in the town I actually live now. I didn't live here then, but that doesn't matter. And he was one of the guests there. He was one of the people that were there. We were staying at the same hotel. He met my friend Dave Jones, the great Dave Jones, the night before everything got started. And Dave was telling me about it. Said he was so personable, so nice. And the next morning, as we're walking out to our cars to go to the place, he just, hey, Dave, how you doing? Good to see you. Did you have a good night?
Yeah.
And he was perfectly super kind and very friendly with every single body that was there. Same event, met Mick Foley. And Foley had, he did his show the night before everything got started. He was obviously tired and worn out, but he still took time with everyone. And we were kind of last in the line, my buddy and I. And I was thinking, what can I do to actually make an impact with Foley? Just to maybe, give him a little bit of joy. And so when I handed him the stuff to sign, I was like, could you make it out to my best friend Steve, who I don't even know, or to my good friend Steve, who I don't even know. Yeah, because that's a Rocky 2 reference.
Yeah.
And he stopped and he looked at me. He said, "Rocky 2?" I'm like, "Rocky 2, brother." And we just kind of had a cool little exchange. And he was, as tired as he was perfectly friendly. And
cool.
And just about everybody we spoke to that week, those were two of the biggest stars that were there. Just about everybody else we spoke to that week was just perfectly nice and wonderful to speak to. The biggest, I guess, the most standoffish would have been Tyrus Brodus Clay, and he didn't seem too thrilled to be where he was.
Well, my heart would be broken if I failed to meet Brodus Clay after meeting Jim Cornette and Mick Foley. I don't want to go off and retell old stories I've told on these chats before. Roddy Piper, I had the pleasure of doing stand-up comedy with Roddy Piper in November of 2010.
You can tell that story anytime, man. Love that.
No, I don't want to derail because I know we're talking about the outfits today.
We can put the brakes on any discussion if we're talking about Hot Rod.
Yes, sir.
Well, he's another one who learns your name for the night. So I was Bob, and I was told after my performance by Hot Rod's good friend Steve Simone, a very funny comic who tells a lot of cool funny stories about being a kid and just watching wrestling on TV. They became friends, and Steve taps me on the shoulder after my set. And I'm only doing 10 minutes up top. It's nothing to write home about. And he says, "Go in the green room," which is like a closet. And he goes, "Roddy wants to talk to you." And I don't know if you've ever been told that Roddy Piper wants to speak with you privately alone in your life. But I may have my heart may have skipped a few beats. Yeah. So I go in there. And I met him for 10 seconds right before going up, which is also nice right before you perform for 200 people. It is like, oh, hold on, meet Roddy Piper real quick, because that's not going to mess you up at all. No. So I go in there, and he goes, oh, you're the same guy. You came in here a minute ago. Oh, you were so shy. You were up there. You had him laughing. Me and Steve were cracking up. I said, "Oh, Steve, this son of an..." He didn't say son of an unnamed goat, but it would be funny if he did. Oh. But in my head, I like to think, "Oh, there's someone I named going, we were cracking up. Oh, Bob, thank you so much for doing the thing." And thank me. And he bought pizza for the entire audience. I just want to, he bought pizza for 180. I'm sweating. I just did my DDP yoga. I just did it. And the shower is making the apartment hot because I took I don't call them showers. I call them a nude body wash. That's what I call them. I just make it sexy. That's what I do. That's what we do in a Bob Squad. We make it sexy, Dad. We rock and roll, strut and stroll, slam and jam, move and groove, clang and bang all day long, baby, living on the edge of a lightning bolt. No, but Piper, similar experience. I got to do that, and I haven't met Jim Cornette, but who knows? Who knows? The day will come. But it was nice to get a certificate from the great one himself.
Well, in a lot of ways, Cornette and I could be no more different. I mean, we are absolutely polar opposites in so many ways. But I will tell you that a lot of the way that I view people oftentimes is, how was I treated by this person? And I will not say a bad word against Jim Cornette because I saw how he treated the fans. Same thing with Piper, what you just said. It always seemed to me like Piper was all about respect and mutual respect and treating people with respect. And so in the arena of a stand-up kind of deal, I can totally see him just being like he would be backstage at a wrestling event, making sure to give the young guys a pat on the back, make sure to give the guys, he just always Piper dealt in respect. You could always tell from his podcast and the way he spoke to people. And I hate that I never got to meet him. He became, because of his podcast, he became one of my heroes in wrestling. Yeah. I love the guy.
Well, if we won't say anything bad about the people we've had bad experiences with, cool. I'm just going to say nothing about Jake the Snake Roberts and the Sandman, and we're just going to move. We're going to shove right on there.
It's really not. Sometimes it's not fair because celebrities, they're under such a microscope that it's like people are just looking for that one instance so that they can go, aha. It's kind of like the generation.
Yeah, but you also can't pee everywhere, can you? I mean, there are different rules.
No, but I'm talking about, like,
I know what you're saying.
I'm sure there's one guy out there who goes, Roddy Piper was the biggest jerk. He punched me. Okay, well, and they want to perpetrate this story that Roddy Piper was awful to everyone and he was punching everyone in sight. That's what they do. They find the one thing and they go, You know, he was just an awful human being. He punched me. Well, what happened? I stabbed him. Okay. So that's an important part of the story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's you were one of the guys that stabbed him. That's an important part of the story.
Devil's in the details.
Yeah.
Well, at the same event, we met Larry Zbyszko. His son was wrestling in the event, so he was there just for his son. He wasn't there making an appearance necessarily. So I walked over to him. I didn't want to bother him or anything, but I just said, "Hey, Mr. Zbyszko, I just want to tell you that I always thought that you were one of the best promos for me as a kid watching you." And he looked at me and said, "Well, of course I was." Like, he was just so, and my friend's like, "Man, I thought that was so rude." I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's everything I would ever want from Larry Zbyszko."
That's what you wanted to say, yeah.
For me to compliment him and him just say, "Of course that's the case."
Yeah. I would love it if I ever met Larry, talked to him for like 2 minutes, he'd say something like, "Okay, you have spoken to me for 2 glorious minutes. Beat it."
Exactly.
You're leaving Larry land.
The pleasure was all yours.
So, talking about best dressed wrestlers, here's the thing. Here's the deal. The best rating system, and this isn't legitimate. This isn't like, I cannot believe the legitimacy they give Meltzer stars to this day. But anyways, for the purpose of fun discussion, I have not seen a better rating system for fun discussion than Bret Hart's scale rating wrestlers. So he rates total points of 30, and the closest you can come to 30 means, you know, the greatest wrestlers come close to 30. And he has 3 criteria: look, which for the purposes of this, we're talking about ring gear and maybe entrance gear and stuff like that, even belts. But Bret includes like look. You gotta kind of look the part. You don't have to be Ultimate Warrior, but you know, in Bret's own case, when he's rating himself, he goes, "I hit the gym, as much as I could. I didn't have a 6-pack, but I didn't look too bad." And
Bret was a beer man. No, he had, but he wasn't pudgy.
For all intents and purposes, like, yeah, you look at him back then, and he wasn't really one of the most muscular guys. But you compare him back then to a lot of the guys today, it's like, wow, Bret's got a lot of muscle on his frame.
Bret was taller than people think too, by the way. He was
that too, yeah. So look, 10. You get rated out of 10 for look. Promo, 10 out of that. And then in-ring skill. So it's Arn Anderson is a 10 all day long for in-ring skill and for promo. That's an easy 20, right? Look, what did he always say? Tan fat looks better than pale fat.
Yeah.
So he's not a 0. He's not even a 5. But that was the enforcer. He wasn't supposed to come out with a flashy robe. He was the enforcer for the guy with the flashy robe.
Right. For who he was, he looked the part.
Right. But in terms of look, this would be cool if we could do a 3-part series and start off with look. The greatest, talking about outfits for these wrestlers. We're not really going to get into the physiques and stuff, but I'd say the guy who came up with the thing, Bret Hart, deserves to be pretty high on that list too. I mean, he's kind of humble about it, and he goes, I wasn't the flashiest, I wasn't Randy Savage, but it was a cool look. The leather jacket, the shades were incredibly cool. They were unique. Wraparound shades, very cool. And the pink and black. I just wanted to mention this today. And absolutely, Matthew, yeah, Dynamite Kid, one of the best of all time. Bret and Owen took a lot from Dynamite in the ring. But anyway, before the Hart Foundation, a lot of wrestlers wore pink to get that homophobic heat. It was like, we're dainty and don't you hate us? It was a different time. Some people today might not understand that, but pink was instant heat for like guys like Adrian Adonis and Adrian Street and probably a bunch of other guys named Adrian. The Hart Foundation came along and they wore hot pink, that hot bubblegum pink. So it was like that bright neon. And the cool thing about them was they were tough enough to wear pink in that era. It wasn't about, oh, don't you hate us, for homophobic reasons. It was, you had this really cool guy, slicked hair, the shades, cool, just a cool cat, Bret. And then you had the strong, tough, crazy guy, Jim. And it was like, you know what? If you guys want to wear pink, if you guys want to wear polka dots, much like Dusty later did, it doesn't matter, man. You can wear whatever you want. And it was really cool too that they blended the black with the pink. It wasn't just pink; it was pink and black.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, black is a pretty tough color, Steve Austin. So in terms of his look, not just like the jackets were cool with the tassels and epaulets and all that, and his actual ring gear evolved and got cooler and cooler as the years went by, while remaining true to the original Hart Foundation design. I just thought, yeah, pink, because no one was doing hot bubblegum pink at the time. It was totally unique, and how many wrestlers can say we're the only ones that did that? So Bret's
you have to jump
on
in.
the list.
Sorry, you have to jump in with and give a bunch of that credit. And this dude doesn't get enough credit, because when you talk about greatest managers of Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, etc., the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, was an assistant on his guys being colorful and him dressing, having different jackets for his guys. And also little things like if, for example, Honky Tonk Man had his red jumpsuit that day, Jimmy Hart wouldn't want Honky's opponent wearing red.
Right.
It's just too much red. Jimmy always wanted colors and contrast. So if Jimmy Hart's going to be your manager, then you're going to have some flash and sizzle to you. Now, a lot of people know, technically the Hart Foundation had blue for a few months beforehand, yada, yada, yada. But whatever, the pink is what made him stand out. That's the pink everybody remembers. So
it was the missing piece when Vince first saw it. He said, "That's it. That's what you guys have been missing," because they were languishing when they were wearing the blue stripe, and maybe we'll go with a yellow stripe. Like, no.
Well, I think you hit on it. It's that it was definitive. Like when Bret found that look for himself, particularly the shades, really is what brings it all together. You know, like that was a definitive look. You never really saw Bret Hart when he was going to be on mic, especially without the shades on. If he took them off, he meant business. But you know, he was that look for him. What became a definitive look, and so there was never any question about when Bret Hart walked out. There was never any question about who is that. You knew just based on the outfit, based on the look.
And they turned hot pink from, at the time, it had only been an effeminate kind of wimpy color to cool. Yeah. They're the ones. The Hart Foundation made pink cool. So and there's Adam. How you doing, Adam? Another very well-dressed wrestler. Lawler's outfits were beautiful, not just the crown, but his robes, his capes were fantastic. So there's a guy, he was mostly an indie guy, right? He never later on joined the WWF, but while he was in Memphis, that wasn't like a national organization, but you would think it was, just based on how good all of his outfits were.
Well, especially once they started doing the stuff with Kaufman, you know, that put Memphis on the map in a lot of ways, or at least Memphis wrestling.
I want to find some pictures of Jerry here. Add to stream.
While you're doing that, I've got a list that I made of looks that stick out. And so I didn't know if we were talking about just overall or at a specific point in time. But Rey Mysterio's Halloween Havoc 97 look, and really a lot of his big pay-per-view looks, they're the two kings of Memphis.
Yeah, that's the robe I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That's the Warrior King right there.
I was going to say, yeah, that looks like he's going to battle or something.
That looks awesome.
Old gladiator, yeah.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio from which WrestleMania?
It was Halloween Havoc 97. He came out. It was a full purple bodysuit. It was for the match was with Eddie Guerrero for the mask, and it was a fantastic match. But the look, he came out looking almost like it was based on the Phantom, the comic strip, the Phantom.
There we go.
And I just, that look stuck out to me. The match stuck out to me. But then after that, Ray would go on at many WrestleManias or big pay-per-views to wear an outfit that's an homage to a superhero of some sort. You know, he's done Joker, he's done Spider-Man, he's done Batman, he's done all kinds of different homages. And though of course he's got the mask and everything, you know, and that kind of defines his look, obviously. The fact that he doesn't just settle on, I've got a mask and I'm going out, like the old days, you know, your Destroyers, your Mr. Wrestlings, and all those guys, Super Destroyers, would have just a mask, and it just was just a mask. Rey Mysterio learned to have a whole look to go along with the mask and be more than just a mask with it. And and it was something really, really cool, especially later on when he'd start wearing those white contacts.
Mhm.
And his eyes would be whited out.
That's a good point. That's a lot of modern wrestlers will do that. It used to be for a big show, guy would get like a new version of his typical outfit. I got to say, Ravishing Rick Rude, shout out there to the masked Blanchard, Danny Blanchard. Watching out there. Rick Rude with his airbrushing was great too, but like Rick Rude would wear his typical kind of regular airbrushing, but then for a big pay-per-view match, he went all out. It was a bigger deal, but it was still his general outfit. Ray with the big pay-per-view matches went all out with like, what superhero is it going to be this time? And wrestlers sometimes, like Kenny Omega, will do that. Like his outfits look great anyway, but on the really big shows, he goes all out with the giant capes and robes and
he'll do a lot of video game homages, right? He's like a big gamer.
Let's bring up Kenny Omega here, because he's definitely a modern. Oh, just the kind of like a half cape.
Yeah, look at that.
Well, him and his buddies were the Ghostbusters last year, weren't they?
I wouldn't call that a great outfit. That might have been Spirit of Halloween.
Well, no, it's a Halloween. We're doing a Halloween episode, and they.
That's true.
For Halloween, they.
I mean,
what was that one?
See, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with Spirit of Halloween Ghostbusters outfit. I just picked one up myself, and I'm super psyched to be a Spirit of Halloween Ghostbuster. I don't make Kenny Omega money though.
Yeah,
they should be wearing actual screen accurate replicas. But yeah, like with the giant gun and the big mask, like you got to think that's kind of Rey Mysterio influence there, a little bit anyway. Go all out with your outfit for the big matches. Looks cool. And let me bring up a Hart Foundation, since we were talking about them without the picture earlier. A couple awesome posters of the Harts.
Oh,
love this one. That's one of my favorites. Like, even if you wanted to give them that kind of Adrian Adonis effeminate heat, what are you going to do? You're not going to do it to his face, right? Like, who's going to go up to Jim Neidhart? I wouldn't mess with him.
When Bret was a heel, he did arrogance so well.
Yeah.
And just the whole come out with his and he continued to do that even as a face, but he just did arrogance because you believe that this guy's just it's kind of a prick. Like, you just always felt that vibe from him.
He knew he was as good as he was. And that's what you're not supposed to like about him. That's
the thing. Bret, Cowboy Bob Orton, Barry Windham, Bobby Eaton, all in the same kind of cut from the same cloth. They're just as good as, well, Bobby wasn't really all that full of himself or anything like that, but they were just so darn good. Like, I remember, to get back on Jim Cornette for a second, I remember him saying, now I'm going to go out there and talk about how the Midnight Express is the best team in the world today. Bobby Eaton made it so that I wasn't a liar. So I always loved that. Like, Jim, when he was boasting about how great they were, it was because of Bobby Eaton. He wasn't lying, actually.
Right.
Condrey was great too. Stan Lane was great too.
Yep.
Ric Flair insisted on wrestling Bobby Eaton when Flair, wrestling wise shouldn't have been, but he was like, no, I'm wrestling Bobby. I'm going whatever it was, 15 with Bobby on TV or whatever. So that's a shame. It's just a name because of history is written by the winners, and so it's kind of a shame that that's one of those names you don't hear too much of.
Well, I keep throwing it out.
Now down in my neck of the woods, you hear a lot of Bobby. And that's Southern. That's good old Southern wrestling. So,
Alabama Jam.
Yeah, so he's held in high regard around here. If you utter the name Bobby Eaton, you're going to have tons of conversations about not only the Midnight Express, but also when he and Arn were a tag team together during the Dangerous Alliance days. That was almost as good a team as Tully and Arn, and in some ways maybe even better. But Eaton was just he was underrated in his performance because he wasn't the best guy on the mic. But man, when you grow and you kind of learn what to watch for in the ring and stuff, you realize just how good this guy was, and he was fantastic. Not the best look in the world, but
Yeah, he wasn't a body guy. And that's,
Bite your tongue. Although he did trim down for his TV title run. I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
Bret was definitely a toyetic look to him too. Again, same reason, the pink, it stands out. A lot of Bret fans in here. That's awesome.
The you mentioned the TV title. That's one of those titles, man, that like if the Intercontinental title was the working man's title, you know, for WWF back in the day, really the TV title was that for the NWA and WCW.
The
And I
worker belt.
think it became very underrated by management because you generally that belt went on to guys that could work week in, week out, do these great little 10-minute matches. And it was a great heel belt because at 10 minutes, the time limit's over, you're done.
That's right, man.
And you just get so angry because you'd want to see that guy go down, especially like an Arn. Like that's the Arn. To me, I associate that belt so much with Arn Anderson.
That's Arn's world title. They asked him, like, do you regret ever not winning the world title? And Arn goes, the TV title was my world title. That guy, he fought, you know, every match that he was in defending the TV title. It felt like a world title match. You know, against Tom Zenk, against Arachnaman, like it didn't matter. He was dead serious. I guess that was Arn's greatest entrance gear, the television title.
Having that belt, that television title around his waist for sure.
So, Bob, who's one of your best dressed wrestlers?
I have. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to go a little modern.
That's a good one.
Because I knew that Randy Savage and the Warrior were going to come up, and I do want to say something about the 1990 Undertaker a little later. Ooh. But I got to go a little modern. I'm going to go with my boy now in the AEW world. We're talking. It's a Halloween episode. We're talking best dressed. We got to talk about my man Danhausen. What you got? I mean, he's a ghoul. He has a little bit of face paint, just a little red under the eyes. There you go.
For people who aren't familiar with Danhausen, he's very nice.
Yes.
But I'm waiting for someone to finish it. He's very evil.
I thought you were going to take it.
Trying to open.
Over the right, you can see
they're cursed.
They're all small. They're all cursed.
They're all cursed.
He's a very tricky soul. That's
there we go. Open image, a new tab. There we go.
I didn't realize this guy was a wrestling personality until he showed up on AEW. I started seeing a lot of toy videos with Danhausen, honey. I'm like, wow, what? This guy's going a long way for a YouTube video. And then I saw him show up in AEW. I'm like, oh, he's a wrestling guy. Okay, I get it now.
That's the whole thing. So basically, he was an indie guy who kind of just developed his own cult following with his YouTube videos and his self-promotion and his toy stuff. And gradually, other people around the then functioning Ring of Honor and AEW world kind of that's the CGI human form. He doesn't like you to. It's a CGI. So,
oh, okay, sorry.
He doesn't like that. But
very nice glasses.
He developed this character and this whole world around himself, Danhausen, that to me, I don't like when he's compared to Orange Cassidy. I think Orange Cassidy is one note and it's one joke and it's over. Danhausen's developed this entire colossal world around himself, and it's amazing the way he's done it. And only on his debut did you kind of see his more. And there you go. That's a good pick. His indie attire, and then gradually, like that coat you see there, he started having his gear kind of ramped up to do the teeth and the symbols, and his tights got glittery and shiny and red, and the boots got fancier too. He lent his boots to one guy. I don't know if he got them back a little while ago. But and you can see the eyebrows there, the eyebrows. Thank you for getting that.
I hear those boots fit really well.
I don't know if they really should have had him be barefoot the following Wednesday and not say anything.
Those boots fit so well. He was so comfortable and laid back. He just started speaking his mind, and
just totally. It was a crime that the following Wednesday on his show that Danhausen just didn't come to the ring barefoot and no one say a word. And the God, that would have been, but they never, no one listens to Bob, I guess. But I love him. He's great. So he's still adding to the outfit, even though there's so much black. He's always doing something a little different and keeping you guessing. And I don't think their TV really represents everything he's doing. So I definitely wanted to include him. He's
like a weird carny magician from 1923.
He,
He's
you
described
know,
himself as an interdimensional ghoul.
Yeah, like a sideshow thing.
here's the thing. Like, he's doing something that there are so many guys on the indies that have tried to do in a post Crow Sting era,
Yeah.
post Undertaker era. There's so you go to the indies and there's always going to be some dude who is trying to do the face paint gimmick, the ghoulish gimmick, you know, whatever the case may be. And they always end up being the same one note kind of guys. And Danhausen, like, honestly, if I look at this guy and you say, well, he's a wrestler and he came out of the independent circuit, I'd be like, I've got him figured out if I haven't heard him speak or I haven't seen him do his thing. And then to kind of see that he is growing into, he's taking this character and he's bringing it into more, he's bringing it into money is what he's doing. You know, like he's actually, AEW is actually saying, let's put a little money behind this character and see what we can do to push it and drive it and make it ready for prime time. And I almost feel about him like I felt about, you mentioned The Undertaker earlier. Even as a 13-year-old kid, when The Undertaker first came, I was like, I just don't know this character's going to last very long, you know. And then as time went on, and the man behind the character drove that character and performed so well, you know, it became, you can't think of wrestling now without The Undertaker. He comes up, he's going to be on all these different types of lists. But yeah, Danhausen's interesting, and he's one that, you know, in the words of Emperor Palpatine, we'll watch his career with great interest.
Yeah, he's always a top merch seller too. Like right away, he was like number 4 or 5 t-shirt seller there. And I noticed you can put him with anything. He doesn't need a script. He doesn't need a lot of direction. You put him in any of these wacky segments. I only watch like the YouTube stuff when he's in it, and just because he's in it, and he shares it on his own media, so it's not like I'm gonna miss it or anything. And any weird thing where somebody's interviewing him and they're clearly just killing time, he knocks that stuff out of the park and makes it so entertaining the entire time because he knows how his character reacts to every situation. Whereas somebody else, and I really don't mean to trash the guy, I don't have any problems with him, but Orange Cassidy's one note. He's gonna, and then it's over. Danhausen can, when I say he can go, he can mentally go for a long time. He can host whatever show. Honestly, those media scrums where they're all breaking kayfabe and patting each other on the back, just the hell with that. Just let Danhausen give 10 minutes of that to him and just let him goof off and just amuse people instead of just what you end up with, and that worked out well. So, you know, have a muffin. What do you want?
Yeah. We got a bad one here. Giant Gonzalez.
Arguably the greatest dressed of all
time. One of the best physiques in wrestling.
Well, with the bodysuit on for sure.
No, I'm with you. I'm with Double M there. Best physique. Look at the abs.
The Slim Goodbody ripoff there. Yeah.
I want to bring up Orange Cassidy here. He might make my list of best dressed. Let me just say, because the dude does wear the Canadian tuxedo.
That's right. You're biased because of the
because of the Canada, right? Yeah, there you go.
Listen, your Canada bias really has shown tonight, Michael.
I gotta say though, like his shtick still cracks me up every time. The slow roll into the ring just kills me. And then what I really like about his matches is when he kicks it in gear and he just starts, you know, going 1,000 miles a minute. And I get it then. It's like, oh, he's not lazy. He's not an idiot. It's all a psych out. It's all to psych his opponent out, to like throw his opponent off so that his opponent slows down thinking, oh God, you know, I got to slow down for this, this sloth. And then he's got you. He tricked you. So when he does that, like, I remember one match with Pac, which just blew me away. I couldn't believe all the stuff that he could do. He's taken less is more. work safe, not hard, kid. He's taken that to the extreme.
Well, the idea of someone who comes out and for a chunk of the match just has his hands in his pockets, you know, and it's like, you know, when the hands come out, he means business.
Yeah. Flying up the top rope with his hands in his pocket.
And that is a great
think about the danger that's involved.
Though.
Yeah. Yeah, not so much like, Yeah, when he's standing there, just hands in his pockets. But when he's actually doing moves with the hands in the
Right.
pockets, that's awesome.
And think about how dangerous that is to come off the top with your hands in your pockets, to to do that kind of stuff. You're really trusting a lot. But yeah, he's one that is a lot of these guys that have come into AEW off of the independents that were big on the independents. They're out of my wheelhouse, and so I don't really know them that well, other than what I've seen on AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's rather funny. And same thing with Danhausen. Danhausen's one I'm really interested in seeing what happens with him as he moves forward.
Mm. Glad you enjoy that. That was a lot of fun to make. I tore some of the paint off of my vintage Randy Savage figure doing that. My Ricky Steamboat wasn't in perfect condition, but the Randy was in really, really nice condition. And so I recreated Randy Savage versus Steamboat WrestleMania 3, and I put in the commentary from Gorilla and Jesse. And I was actually smashing him around like I did when I was a kid. And when I was done, the Randy had a little less paint on his beard and head. And I just thought, totally worth it. That was so much fun to be able to play one more time and make an actual movie and share it with people. Totally worth it. I don't regret it. I don't regret it. Very nice comment. Very evil. And Stinger. Stinger is definitely on the list for me because there he is, a recent picture rocking the Great American Bash look.
He did that for old Conrad, I believe, at a Starcast or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Surfer Sting had so many cool outfits.
You're walking in my world now.
There we go. Just so many. He was Macho Man level basically in WCW. Yeah. The amount of money he spent on all of his different outfits. Very toyetic, like Bret. Totally. He's one like Macho Bret and Warrior. You can have dozens of Sting figures.
Sting totally captured me when I was, I guess, 10 years old, and I was a huge Warrior fan. Going into Mania 6, I was Warrior over Hogan. And I had flipped channels in TBS, which is national, barely national at the point. And I learned about Sting and Ric Flair, and I just thought Sting was the coolest. He's the reason I kept watching. It was WCW. I don't think it was called NWA then, but they would reference it here and there. It was confusing. And when you're 10, it's extra confusing. It's confusing now. I didn't get it at all when I was 10, and I still get stuck on some stuff, but on the timeline. But by 90, it was pretty much WCW, and I just couldn't stop looking at the colors, man. Good physique, good charisma.
And then the colors went away and traded in one awesome look for another.
Yeah.
And it's the Crow, but it's cool. And it's stuck out. It stood out just like the Hart Foundation.
It lasted longer than the Crow.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Crow gimmick's actually gone longer than a Surfer, what they call the Surfer gimmick for sure.
Yeah. Could be looked at first as kind of an Undertaker ripoff, but I think in the long run, no, it's a totally separate thing. It's like Demolition and Road Warriors. After enough time, no, Demolition were definitely not Road Warrior ripoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
When I was a kid in the mid '80s, in our regional area, there was a guy named Joe Pedicino who he got wrestling shows from all the different territories, from as many different territories as he could. And he had a block of TV on Saturday nights I believe it was on a UHF station. And he would show starting at 9:00 on Sunday nights. He'd start with what used to be Mid-South and UWF. And then it would be Crockett stuff and Memphis stuff and whatever, but it would go till all hours of the night. And as a little kid, my bedtime on Saturday nights was 10. And so I only got to watch the UWF. So the UWF, alongside with what was on TBS at 6:05, the UWF became my wrestling. Bill watched UWF. And so Sting was a part of the UWF at that time. Now, at that point in time, he was blonde, but he was wearing mostly like some black makeup around the eyes and that sort of thing. And so I have been a Sting fan since I was about 7 or 8. And then when he came into NWA, WCW, when Crockett bought the UWF and all, he was the one guy that kind of rose to the top. And then in '88 with that Clash of the Champions match, Clash of the Champions that year was on a Sunday night. I had church on Sunday night, And I remember just could not wait to get home because Sting was going to be wrestling Ric Flair. And and I was just always a Sting guy. And I was a little disappointed initially at the Crow gimmick because he wasn't talking. But man, over that year and a half or so, as it built up and built up to Hogan, I was just so stoked and so pumped to finally get there. And it was just great to see your hero be the one who was unstoppable. Every time Sting came down, he was beating people with the bat. He was, he was winning the day. Macon, Georgia, 1997, December 1997. It was just before it was the week before. It was a go home show before Starrcade, Hogan Sting. And it was the most boring Nitro ever because there was a good chunk of it sitting in the audience while they were redressing the set to be NWO Nitro because NWO had taken over. Next thing you know, as the show's ending, Hogan and those guys are in the ring, and the Macon Coliseum the ceiling was too low. There was nowhere for Sting to rappel, but instead he hit a zip line and came in on a zip line, and it was awesome. And then after that, the show had gone off the air. Sting and Scott Hall have a match, a dark match, and it was just one of the greatest nights of my life because of wrestling. And he went on, to do some cool stuff. I think a lot of people disregard some of the stuff he did in TNA, but he had a great run in TNA and did some new stuff with the character. He did
Joker.
the whole Sting thing, which was actually pretty interesting. Obviously a ripoff of the Joker, but like he got to take that charisma that he has and play it out in a whole new way. I love that he was terrorizing Hogan and terrorizing the people that were around Hogan. And it culminated in that match he had that really should have been it felt like it was a few years too late because the way that he's getting beat down and he's just begging Hogan, who was a heel at the time, to help him. And then Hogan rips off the bad guy shirt and comes in and cleans house. That's how they should have ended the whole NWO stuff. That would have been amazing. That Sting was trying to draw the good back out of Hogan.
And I was expecting Surfer Sting to return when he won that belt. It would have been perfect clean win at Starrcade 97.
Yeah.
And then the next night on Nitro, you're expecting Crow Sting to come out, but bleach blonde, flat top Sting with a neon green or orange or pink jacket comes out. No, the Crow was only to fight the NWO.
Right.
We've beaten them, and I can put the Crow away and then, bring him back some other day when you need them.
But you're right, man. It was all those looks to me were just fantastic, and especially the early Crow stuff because he didn't have I hate to be rude, but he didn't have the receding hairline and stuff. And so he just had a great look about him to me.
I wish he stayed gray. I think his first AEW appearance might be right here. I think he hadn't dyed his hair.
Yeah, it was snowing indoors, and I remember that was odd.
But I would have loved a gray old
something.
Sting, like old Snake and Metal Gear
Were
Solid.
they not at Daly's place when he came out the first time with AEW down in Jacksonville?
I don't remember, but I guarantee it wasn't snowing outside.
Well, no, not in Jacksonville, but at least it's kind of an open air place that you could make a case for the snow.
Oh, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a weather almanac for the time. The married couple recently of in the last year, both Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins with the outfits have really turned it up a notch. I want to mention we got to get some women in there because both Becky and Charlotte too is another one for pay-per-views. She hasn't been around lately, but for pay-per-views, Charlotte Flair's always always stepped it up and come up with something new. But yeah, no coincidence. I think Becky and Seth, the married couple in 2021 and the first half of this year. I know Becky's hurt right now, but Seth is always donning something wacky and colorful and zany and nutty and mad camp and goofy and off the hook and off the wall and off the chain. You know the deal.
Yeah. Seth is getting some very interesting outfits.
Yeah, purple pajamas like a week ago or something. I mean, it's no, I don't know how.
Wild.
Some guys just dress well.
Don't you have to refer to him these days as Seth freaking Rollins?
You can.
Seth Franklin Rollins. This comment back here, I think it might have been Scott Hall. So
I think the same thing. Yeah,
so Oyame, take a look at the bad guy, Razor Ramon. He's on the list, man.
Yeah.
He's oozing with machismo, the gold. Kind of, more of a little simple. It was just a vest and the gold, but
It
it's
looked
kind of
good.
like Hart Foundation. You didn't need a lot. You just needed to stick out, and the movie star looks, man.
Imagine him with that picture without the gold, though. Kind of cool, not the same.
Yeah, and
May
there's a
not be gold.
couple.
Did he wear the gold as the diamond stud? I don't remember.
I don't think so. No. And then when he got the Intercontinental title, it felt perfect. Like, yeah, that was the missing piece, Chico. The big gold.
Sure.
So that's another great one. And Jake mentioned Jesse the Body Ventura. We got to take a look at some of Jesse's.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm glad.
That's a great one. Oh,
Listen,
right
you-
there.
What matters? I don't know. I'm just asking questions.
The governor. Look at this. Yeah, right there. Shut up, McMahon. He's injured.
And that's the tell of the tape, Gino.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse and Hulk too. Hulk in his later years, both
Sure.
highly influenced by superstar Billy Graham. Jesse
I was going to say something about Billy Graham. Yeah.
still looks great. Jesse
Bo was-
Ventura.
How maddening must it have been for Ventura when he's off? Of course, he was doing the governor thing, so he probably wasn't paying much attention. But when Hollywood started coming out with the feather boa and everything, the feather boa, like Jesse had done many times as the
Right
bomb.
there.
Yeah. And knowing his feelings about Hulk Hogan, to see Hogan coming out with the feather boa must not have been too good with him. Must not have set well with him.
That's an amazing picture. It says so much. There's so much going on in one photograph.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about Macho. We've
Sure you do.
mentioned him, but Macho, much like Sting, just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And how much money do you think this guy spent on all of his outfits? This is the Electric Cowboy phase.
Yep.
Phase
92-ish. Yeah.
He, from what I understand, I can't remember. I guess it might have been on his DVD with the documentary that his brother's doing. Basically, said that he didn't like to wear the same outfit twice because he felt like he had to give the fans something new every time, and so he had a closet full of these outfits where he would seldom wear the same thing twice. He just wanted to make sure that there was enough change up and difference that people felt like they were getting something different every time.
Well, if I can nitpick that a little bit, I think, especially with the schedule of time, I think he didn't want to wear the same thing on TV twice.
That's okay.
Right.
If I was a betting man, I would say back in the day, if they were filming on a Saturday night or whatever, if I was a betting man, I'd say house shows.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
he's gonna wear it, but whatever.
On the loop.
Right. No, I guess I should have clarified on.
No, just the way wrestling. I love that picture. Too.
Look at that. Ooh, yeah, still
Love that.
got it.
Man.
No
Yeah,
doubt
still got it. Look how intense he looks. And that's his wedding day, folks. Where's the bride? Yeah.
Can you imagine a world of podcasting with Randy Savage in it? Like,
oh yeah.
Part of it actually, in a way, like yes and no, because I just have this vision of just Randy Savage trying to say something awesome and Conrad telling him what Meltzer said, and it just wouldn't be fun. Like it would kind of suck actually. So in a way, I mean, I wish Randy was with us to chat here and there, but I maybe it's just better there was no Randy Savage podcast.
Well, Conrad would have to find the right format with Randy to do it. I think that. I think.
What do you mean by that? Every 2 minutes.
yeah.
Bonesaw is Randy.
Yeah.
I think Conrad would have had to find the format. He's had to tweak the format with some of the guys that he has shows with.
Yeah. I don't. I think I had to stop. Conrad blocked me on Twitter.
Oh no.
I don't know why. I literally don't know what the tweet or the reference honestly was. One day I just was like, I haven't heard from that guy in a while, and then I was like, oh, okay then. I did something.
So the tie-dye, Jesse had the tie-dye, Macho had the tie-dye. We got to talk about superstar Billy Graham, the man, the originator, often imitated, never duplicated. There's Billy in his later years, but let's see if we can find a younger. It's basically the same thing.
He is the definition of before his time. Like he was ahead of the times. He
20 years too soon.
yeah. You
I
know, and
mean,
Hogan,
even like the this look when he came back
yep.
was ahead of its time. You know, that's the Scott Steiner look right there.
Sure.
And all the earrings and all that. Like, you know, the great thing about Billy Graham, I know there's some people out there who have a couple of not great things to say about Billy Graham, but so he was already thinning when he was champion. And so when he came back, he didn't have enough to grow it back out because he went bald and did the Kung Fu Billy Graham, which does not make the list.
Doesn't make the list.
Yeah. He took a few years off and came back as Kung Fu Billy Graham and didn't know a lick of Kung Fu, but he knew the poses. He knew the poses.
No.
And then when that didn't work,
at him. He's a bad looking man.
yeah, man. And he had the chops, but he knew he couldn't grow the mane back out. It wasn't genetically possible. So he was smart. He's like, well, what do? I need to evoke that look. So what he did was he grew a beard. He didn't have facial hair before, but he grew a beard, and then he bleached the beard with some black, and then big earrings to just kind of, you know, not distract, but accentuate the lack of the big blonde mane, because that was a big part of the original look in the 70s. Wish there were more good pictures of him with his entrance gear from the 70s. I guess it's mostly just t-shirts that he wore, but he didn't really wear flashy robes or jackets or anything like that.
No, I think of him and I think of the tie-dye. I think of the flexing and everything like you see. And he was before my time, obviously. And I really only know about him through what is spoken, you know, and through the videos that was released and that sort of thing. But Hogan will tell you, you know, like he stole everything he got basically from Billy Graham. You know, that was Hogan's. He was one of Hogan's idols. And so Hogan took it and ran with it, man, made it work.
And that's good that he admits that. I mean, it would be a bad look if he just was like, no, man, I came up with that on my own. It's just a coincidence. I'll bring up Hollywood Hogan here because he just, I don't really think of it as a great look because it's so Billy Graham.
Yep.
But I remember when he first came back to WWE and he was rocking this look, I thought, yeah, that's an awesome evolution of the red and yellow Hulk Hogan look.
Yep.
And like even the double toned beard, mustache and beard, Billy Graham, right? So I'm surprised he didn't just shave the whole head and go full Billy Graham with it. And the black and white NWO look was pretty cool too, with the airbrushing. I mentioned Rick Rude earlier. This one's for the big heel.
This is for all you.
There's how many pictures of this guy doing the
greased up sweat hogs out there?
Yeah. There's
so your women know what a real man looks like.
Mike McGurk, yeah.
That picture, I love those pictures. It just tells a story.
And he's got some awesome airbrushing. Oh, this is one against Flair. He had Fifi on there. Ric Flair with the black eye. Yeah, those were like for the special events. That was, I think, a pay-per-view against Flair. So
he did that with Jake the Snake's wife at the time,
Cheryl.
Did it with he had. I remember him and Warrior having their thing, and he had Warrior spray airbrushed on his tights.
That's the thing. He always kept it relevant to who he was going against. Just the same way Jimmy Hart would have a jacket and a whole outfit for who he was managing. Like everything was for the situation, but there was a theme. That is a great photo. That's 90 SummerSlam Philadelphia. I've
never seen like a good look at his outfit from that match. It's Warrior with the cage. Is he all tied up in the cage or something?
Yeah, I think Warrior's behind him, grabbing him there. But
that's
cool. You mean on the tights? I'm sorry. Yeah,
on the tights. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but that's because Warrior was he had the black, but he still had all the yellow and the blue fuzzy tassels, and I think he had the blue leather for the Winged Eagle belt at the time. The championship, excuse me, not the belt. Belt Ultra Japan. So
yeah. He does the Rick Rude gyration for his wife. She's a lucky gal.
Yeah.
Oh, $1 Million Man. Let's bring up Ted.
Yeah.
Nothing like a cheap tuxedo with a diamond crusted belt.
I love how he would just pull the shirt.
That was the greatest. Just ripping his pants off right before the.
Nothing like a breakaway tux.
See, when I was a kid, I thought that rich people wore outfits with money on them. Like, that's how rich people dress. Clearly, they must. That makes perfect sense to me.
Well, Bob, all you had to do, you had to look no further than $1 Million Man and Richie Rich, and there you go.
Oh yeah, that's true. And he had the different colors too. Doesn't look like there's any of them here, but he had it in green. He had it in white.
Oh yeah. I feel like black with the gold lapels, that one look is the most iconic.
That's a standard. Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely.
And it went best with that belt too. That title, excuse me. Whatever.
Ultimate Warrior, got to bring him up too. Not necessarily for entrance gear, but in the early days, I mean, it wasn't really the tights or anything. It was more about the face paint.
Yep.
You know, and he really went all out, like Sting, with all the different designs and colors of face. Well, same design, but different colors. And he was really good at it. I mean, he was painting his own face.
Yeah.
That's one thing people might take for granted. Sting and Warrior painted their own face.
There's no makeup lady back then.
And do you guys ever, do you notice when a wrestler paints his face and he's not good at it and it looks all bad and
Michael, I was talking about those indie wrestlers that try to do it while
yeah, it doesn't look good. But Warriors was always perfect. And it's not a surprise that later on he actually painted, because the dude had a really steady hand and he could, I mean, here in the later years, he got a little more creative with it, with the cross hatching and the dotting and stuff like that. That's all him. So that looked cool. And also, I got to mention the Road Warriors for the same reason. The face, they had Road Warrior, Mad Max. Road Warriors, my God, the LOD, the Legion of Doom. We got to get a picture of Precious Paul here with them as well. Paul was so cool too, but the LOD, the face paint, the mohawk, the reverse mohawk, the spikes.
I remember when he took that spike and drove it into the eye of the American Dream, Daddy.
But he was still breathing, baby. They should have got it done. They got to deal with him breathing.
That's right.
When he wakes up in the morning and he looks at his kids with one eye, he thinks of them. I almost got that promo memorized, and it's one of my all-time favorites. But the LOD, first time I laid eyes on them, I just went, oh my God. Wrestling other than WWF is amazing. Why aren't these guys in the WWF? And then when they came to the WWF, I went, why are these guys in the WWF? They're not being, the old wrestling fans saying they're not being used right. But I love these guys in all black NWA look. And then the red was cool too in WWF.
It was cool. How do you, if you're flipping channels and you see those two guys in those red spikes and face paint, how do you change the channel? And maybe you don't like wrestling, you change the channel a little later, but for a minute, you're gonna stop.
Man, even if you don't see them in their entrance gear and you see them in the ring, beating up on some schlub from, Peachtree, Georgia, and they're just owning them. It's just like you see how scary they are. You see because especially during the 80s. With the whole hard rock, satanic panic, and everything, you'd see this guy like, now how evil are these guys? Yeah. And then before you know it, you're popping with the rest of the crowd because you're like, they're awesome. No one can touch these guys, and you're just going nuts for them because you're going to see destruction, and everybody loves a train wreck.
As long as they're doing bad stuff to guys you don't like or don't care about.
That's right.
It's a good time.
What
happened here?
Here's a couple of other great dressed wrestlers. I believe that's Johnny Ace. That's the brother
in a white jacket.
I think so.
That makes sense. Yeah, the brothers.
Maybe that's the other brother of Animal. That might be because he had two brothers that wrestled.
Really, I didn't know that. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, you before I got my old man glasses on, you clicked away.
Oh, sorry. Where is it now?
Take a look at those guys. Because the one guy had something written on his tights.
Terminator or something?
Terminator, yeah.
I
I
can't
thought
find
that's
it
what
now.
it said. It was the Terminator. It's okay, man. It's okay.
Any other best dressed wrestlers?
Well,
You
as
guys can
far
think
as
of?
just looks go, there's two we've kind of mentioned and just and glossed over. I'll leave the one for Bob, but
Oh, I found it. Sorry.
there it is. Yeah, that says Terminator, doesn't it? So someone do the Google for us and find out who the Terminator was. But I think you can't, when it comes to just looks of characters, you cannot help but talk about Mick Foley in any of his incarnations, but particularly Mankind. When you, I remember.
What? Mankind.
Well, that's the hippest cat in all the land.
Pump the brakes, Daddy-o.
Yeah.
Talking about superstar Billy Graham.
He's the
How'd I miss
greatest.
this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he had a little late 90s fun with the I think he was having a little Billy Graham fun as well.
Oh, that's a good one right here.
I'm telling you, there you go. That's a good shot right there. When I saw him, I knew Cactus Jack from NWA WCW stuff, and this is how believable the dude was. When he comes to the WWF and he is Mankind, and I'm watching WWF with a friend, he's like, "Hey, that's the guy. That was Cactus Jack." We didn't know his real name at the time, you know. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm old enough to know better. And when he tells me that's Cactus Jack, I'm like, oh, well, this is the perfect character for him. I didn't know the wrestling terms, gimmick or anything. I'm like, this is the perfect wrestling character for him because he's crazy, man. That dude's wild. And like, I was so bought into the persona of Cactus Jack that when I saw him as Mankind, I'm like, it's totally believable. And then his whole interview with Jim Ross and talking about Mick Foley and how his whole origin story basically is just, it's amazing to look at this guy right here, Bang Bang, and know the craziness in his eyes. Like when you used to see him crash land on somebody and stand up and bang bang, and he'd have this look of just this wild look in his eyes.
Man.
To go from that to Mankind rocking in the middle of the ring and pulling the hair out and everything, and then to get the actual story behind him, and they turn that into the Dude Love and the Three Faces of Foley. I don't know that there's ever been anyone who has personified the characters better and done more with a character. Mankind, there's no way that Mankind should have ever been a funny character, and he made him funny. He brought comedy to him, but then when he had to go, he still was able to go, and do the crazy outlandish things. And three times in at Royal Rumble, is all three different characters of the Three Faces. But man, that Mankind look is just, it's pretty iconic in and of itself. But all of his looks really, particularly, the Cactus Jack, the original Cactus Jack look and that Mankind look, to me are pretty iconic.
I loved corporate Mankind.
Yes.
With the gotta dress for success, George.
Yeah.
And Smash from Demolition. I think you could say all of Demolition, WWF Demolition, started off as a alleged Road Warrior ripoff. But you know what? I love them. I didn't know who the Road Warriors were. These were my original Road Warriors.
Yeah.
And later on, I found out those outfits are right out of Road Warrior, with Lord Humongous. But the cool thing about the demos is I think they were better workers than the Road Warriors, especially.
Oh yeah.
Got the mass superstar right there.
Yep.
And good old, was it Crusher Khrushchev? Great workers. Didn't have the physiques of the roadies, but they could work and they could talk too. They were fantastic.
Still two big dudes. You see them in a bar, you don't want to fight them.
Check those masks out,
dude.
Awesome look.
I will say this about that criticism: people, Demolition or Road Warrior ripoffs. It always baffled me because what about the Powers of Pain had the same size and haircuts and style?
They were a bigger ripoff.
Yeah, they were worse ripoffs. I don't know why Demolition gets all of that. I never understood that, but whatever. It's one of those things.
Yeah, Powers of Pain right here. It's
one's got the mohawk, one's got the two plug-in thing, and then
reverse
the face
mohawk.
paint. Yeah,
but I'm scared to death of both of those guys. So that's why you don't say those kinds of things.
I'm most scared of the guy in the middle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I got 2 dogs. I'm terrified of that guy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Do the thing.
Talking about very nice and very evil. It
Oh,
didn't get
geez.
more evil than Mr. Fuji.
That was totally.
Oh, you're a bad man, Mr. Fuji.
And I think up there with Haku levels of tough barbarian was not a guy you played with at any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Seeing Barbarian and those guys there makes me think of the Missing Link. Now, do you guys remember the Missing Link?
Yeah. Link is from my hometown of Kitchener.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You ever see him?
No. No, I don't think he ever came back once he left Kitchener. But yeah, the Link.
I remember him. Again, he's one of those that I knew from the UWF. He was in the UWF when we were watching. I was scared to death of the guy. And he was nowhere near me, you know.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to find a good picture of him here. They're all small. Dewey Robertson, I believe.
That sounds right.
The Missing Link. Oh, there's a good one. Yeah, he had the hair cut in a certain way where he was always grabbing it and pulling on it. Yeah. Looks like Muda sprayed him.
Well, yeah, he must have been sweating. Speaking of Muda, I mean, there's another guy that, especially with like his later years, his ring entrance gear, especially in Japan and stuff.
Thank you for bringing him up. How did I forget the Great Muda? So this is the evolution. That's the original look. There's 2 of the greats, Sting and Great Muda.
Yeah.
But I lost track of Muda for a while when he went to Japan. This is what I knew him from. NWA. 89 was when I started watching NWA, and this guy was the best. Doing all this new stuff that no one had been doing at the time. Lost track of him, and then this happened. I'm like, my God. That is amazing.
Well, he's on his farewell tour now, isn't he?
Yeah, he just showed up in AEW.
Yeah.
Saved Sting's bacon.
I saw that.
It's a combination mask and paint, and it just looks amazing. Very freaky. I mean, it's not very often in wrestling these days you see something and you're kind of, silent. Like
his entrance gear was, once he developed an elaborate entrance gear with like a hood and everything along with his robes. It always looked really really interesting as well. And he had that on the other night when he came out at AEW.
Whoa, look at some of this stuff. Whoa. Yeah, I don't know most of this stuff because I never watched him in Japan for a long time, but look at this. This is a great collage right here. That's incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And even the top right-hand corner there, like that simple little, just kind of a mysterious, just almost a Cobra Commander hood kind of look. I just always thought was so cool and mysterious as far as just entrance gear goes. And if you want to go to entrance gear, again, I'm saving Undertaker for Bob to jump on because he mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
But Big Van Vader's Mastodon get up, man, when he would come out with that thing on and take it off and put it down on the floor and it'd shoot the steam out, that was a scary looking thing.
Find one. Yeah, there it is, blowing the steam.
Yes.
And someone in the chat just mentioned Big Van Vader. Where was that? Aldry mentioned Vader. Open the new tab. Oh, it's a small picture, but originally intended for the Ultimate Warrior. What could have been?
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad we got the Warrior that we got, and I'm glad we got this for Vader. And Vader grew out of it for some. Yeah, I don't know what the story is behind that. I think there's a story behind him being tired of the big thing or whatever. But
wasn't he an LA Ram?
Was he?
Yeah, but you wouldn't let him wear it then.
Right.
If he played for the Rams, then that's even more fitting. Like, with the big ram horns, he looked like a.
They always called it a mastodon hood or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's as far as entrance gear goes. It was basically just a helmet, but it was impressive enough, and it had lights. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The eyes would light up too. It was impressive enough, and just his presence was impressive enough. Oh, I forgot about that when he would put it on the ground and it would start shooting
on the ground and point at it and it would shoot the steam up. Yeah.
Now there's another great one, Bam Bam Bigelow. he didn't really change it up all that much, but for the time, 86, 87, when he first came in, the flames.
Yeah, who had a tattooed head in those days?
Flames
Yeah.
tattooed on his head.
Totally.
Bammer. Looks awesome. Changed it up a couple of times. Bob, Undertaker?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this. I mean, we obviously can't really go through the entire evolution of the Undertaker's outfit. We'll be here for 6 days. But I wanted to make this point about the Undertaker's, I guess, 90, 91, 92 outfit. Because there's not a lot of color. There's the tie and the hat and the trench coat and everything else. But if you watch him when he enters in 90 with Brother Love at that Survivor Series, to me, it's almost like jazz. It's the notes you don't play. It's what he wasn't wearing. If you look at all the promo flyers, the posters for some Survivor Series 1990, there is so much color on all those guys, because in Survivor Series, they would have posters where you see all the this four and that versus that four, and that four, this is this four. So basically, the whole roster is pretty much on these posters that you would see in the magazines. And so in that match specifically, across the ring, Dusty was not wearing his polka dots in that match, but Dusty Rhodes is colorful, being Dusty Rhodes. The Hart Foundation, which we covered, and Coco Beware, who's in hot pink that night.
Oh, well, yeah.
And The Undertaker is with Greg Valentine, $1 Million Man's in his outfit, Verto's at ringside. And of course, Brother Love is all in white and Undertaker's all in black. And Honky Tonk Man was on that team as well. But if you look at that entire show with those posters, Jake and his team with the Rockers and Rick Martel's on the other side, and then the team with the four warriors of Ultimate Warrior, Texas Tomato, and the Legion of Doom versus Mr. Perfect, who's always in neon, and on and on and on and on. You see these things. Yeah, one of those is probably a best example of what I'm talking about here. There's so much color on that roster, and for The Undertaker to debut next to someone dressed in all white, in all black, never mind the tie and the hat and the gloves and all that cool stuff, for The Undertaker to make that debut in all black and talk about standing out. Before there was Austin in all black trunks, black boots, later on. And maybe that's not really related, I shouldn't bring that up. But yeah, for The Undertaker to stand out like that in 90, I guess a year later, but still the same principle. Look at all the color on that show. And then look at The Undertaker. It's almost like it drains the life out of you, but in like a good way. So I was 10 when he debuted, and I was beyond. I wasn't getting scared of guys anymore, but he got me, because there was just something that sucks the life out of you. So I wanted to mention that too. Sometimes it's the stuff you don't do.
It's the Steve Austin effect, when everyone was so flashy and over the top. The bald guy with the black trunks and the black boots and the goatee. Yeah, I'd never thought about it that way, but yeah, he was at the peak of the comic book cartoon kitty WWF, and he just drained the fun. I remember that feeling when he would come down and the crowd would just hush, and it wasn't go away heat.
Right.
It was like it was.
You would see legitimate fear in children's eyes.
Yeah.
To me, the same feeling of Optimus Prime having the color drained from him as he dies in the animated movie.
Yeah.
The same feeling of that, of the red and blue going to gray and black, was like The Undertaker debuting. It feels the same to me, but in an iconic, you will remember this for the rest of your life kind of way.
Well, Bob, you talk about the colors on the poster and him just kind of being there all in black. 89, 88, 89, 90, 91 into 91, 92. Those 4 or 5 years are when neon colors really hit big as far as being the style, the thing. They were common. You saw and people think that neon was all throughout the whole decade of the 80s, and that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
It was there in that later year. And so to have someone come in and he's black, dressed all in black, and he's scary and he's quiet, and they also had a little bit of makeup on him to make him look a little more pale.
Sure. He was 25 years old. It's really hard to get someone to make him look like beaten down and weathered at 25.
Yeah.
But they had to do it. I mean, that picture where he's staring straight ahead with just the tie on. That one right there. He's 25. Yep. That's the match. He's 25 years old.
Yeah, and it's almost like they zombified him.
Yeah.
And he did such a good job of being, like later on, that's one of the reasons I think the Crow Sting was kind of accused of being a ripoff of the Undertaker's, because Taker didn't talk, except he would eventually start to throw in a few things, but for the longest time he didn't speak outside of saying, rest in peace. And
that would kill it, though. He didn't. If he talked too much,
right,
that would kill the whole thing. We only need to hear from him bare minimal. Because if he goes on for a long thing about the coffin and the urns and this, that, and the other thing, it's going to start to sound ridiculous,
right?
And it's going to expose him. And it's not that he couldn't do it. It's the same way his wrestling evolved later. It's not that he couldn't do it.
Right.
That gimmick shouldn't do it right now.
Right.
Maybe later when we need something else for him to do. As my hero likes to say, how can miss you if you don't go away? You need to give him a break. So every time he gets hurt for 6-9 months here or there, he comes back, sometimes radically different, but sometimes it's a little different.
Well, think about, just think about how his character did evolve just in the look, because he went from that all black and gray to having like the purple gloves and the purple trim, and that's pretty iconic there. And
leather, and then the biker, and then the cowboy dead man, and and whatever.
When he did the biker Taker gimmick, I was really kind of like, I don't like this. But he made it work, and the way they brought back Taker, the way they brought back the dead man with the buried alive match with Kane, and then at WrestleMania, Kane's like, "You're dead, you're not, I buried you." And then here come the Druids, and here comes the gong, and here comes the, the scary music and the
lightning. Paul Bear brought him back. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle for that match. And then for a few months afterwards, they brought Paul Bear back. That's the biggest piece, because he'd been gone for a bit.
Yep. And I think that this dude did such a good job just through in many ways, just through the look. Obviously the wrestling evolved here and there, and his rap evolved here and there, but you look at the look of the Undertaker and the way that it totally evolved in places and time. He kept up with the times, and he stayed cool, and he stayed iconic with his look.
Yeah,
I don't know. Cool.
He took a break on that night from staying cool. He took it off.
Right.
The snakeskin pants.
I don't know about that look. Sorry, Taker.
I mean, kudos for trying. What are you going to do?
You know what?
You're going to get suplex. That's what you're going to
do. Here's a humble brag. I've got a friend who has met and hung out with Taker several times. Like they know, he knows my friend by name, by face, and I've never met him through this friend, which really bums me out. But like, for all intents and purposes, my buddy says he's just the coolest, laid back, just chill guy that you ever want to hang with, and so again, good reputation amongst fans, at least from what I understand. Maybe not all of his ex-wives, but that's none of my business.
I don't care.
So I've got a connection maybe no one's ever seen before, but High Plains Drifter. You guys remember that movie, Clint Eastwood?
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker is the High Plains Drifter.
Oh yeah, in a lot of ways, for sure. Yeah,
that makes sense. I don't know the film, but I know he's mentioned, him and JR have mentioned Clint Eastwood in reference to the Undertaker like 100 times. So it's kind of like
One reason I think about it is like he's the dead man, right? Undertaker's the dead man. While Clint Eastwood in High Plains Drifter is the dead man. He's an avenging angel. It's ambiguous, but I always believe that he's the sheriff that was killed and came back from the dead. I mean, you could say it's a brother or something like that, but I think it's cooler to think he's a ghost who's come back to wreak havoc on the town. And the big thing is, a lot of cowboys in movies wore the traditional cowboy hat. Clint Eastwood came along and he really popularized the flat hat, more of like an Eastern type of look. And Undertaker had that flat hat. He didn't have the traditional cowboy hat that David Von Erich wore. Undertaker was wearing a flat hat like that. Yeah. And so that's why when Taker first showed up, I thought, he's kind of doing not just Clint Eastwood, but he's doing High Plains Drifter. He's this mysterious stranger who, where's he from and what's he been through, and a giant piece of him is gone. Something is missing. He's not a normal human being. He's been through something. So I always see High Plains Drifter when I see the Undertaker.
Well, he did have to wrestle for WCW, so I understand.
That'll kill anybody.
Old mean Mark Callis.
Yeah.
Got to mention Jake. He got mentioned earlier, but
not, well, you go ahead.
in terms of outfits, I mean, how awesome is a giant python wrapped all around you?
Yeah.
And it's kind of an animal. It is an animal companion, but it's also a piece of outfit. Having the snake on you. Well, when he came to the ring, it was a bag, which was another cool accessory because what's in the bag.
Right. It built it up. It was a suspense. Is he going to take? Is it coming out of the bag? Is it really in the bag? This, that, and the other thing.
Gary Hart is one of my favorites, so I'm going to do that for you.
Taking requests now on the.
Absolutely, Gary Hart created the Muda gimmick. Created Kabuki. I love Gary Hart's explanation of the mist. I don't remember exactly what color is what, but it was something along the lines of the red mist, brother. That'll mess you up. That'll mess you up big time. But the green will put you on the shelf, baby. The green. You don't want the green mist. So there were different levels of devastation that the different colors.
That is awesome.
I don't know if he ever did Black Mist like Sting recently did. Oh, there's Uncle Gary with Kabuki.
And if you're if you're Malachi Black, the mist actually misses you. he missed with the mist.
Yeah.
It was a missed opportunity. Okay,
oh gosh, there we go.
Stop that.
You got any more, Steve?
Let me double check my list here. I got to talk about Foley. I mentioned earlier on the duster that Warrior wore in the 90s.
I got nothing except maybe Naked Midian, but other than that, I got nothing.
Yeah, I won't be Googling that.
Yeah, it's good. I wouldn't. Yeah, I actually don't know. Yeah.
We've talked Macho, Mysterio. I mean, look, does it get any more iconic than the Ric Flair robe? The dude coming out to the ring looking as only he can look.
What's causing all of this?
Yeah. And boy, did I get worked a few weeks back, the last match.
The last match this year.
Yeah.
I think he's got one more run in him.
Maybe.
I think he's got one more run. I think
if you talk to him, he does.
Impact, man. Main event at whatever they call it, Slammiversary. Bobby Fish versus Ric Flair.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting is the reason I say I got worked at that last match is because I was watching it and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really gotten hurt. He's really down. He really can't do this.
Yeah.
And then they come out later and like, that was the whole idea. Rick meant to work like an old man. Like, oh, okay. Look at that.
We saw him in training do so much more.
Yeah.
So same here. I thought, is he really hurt?
Yeah,
Should they?
There's smoke and mirrors though with those training. I've been in a wrestling school. I spent a little time, and it's so different when we can take our time doing as many takes as we want. There's no pressure. There's no this. There's no that. There's no anything. Everything's warmed up. Everything's perfect to set up, and you could, like I said, there's several takes, and it's edited too. It's not going all at once, all in a row.
Right,
that's a great.
Right.
Is that the auction guy who rips people off and basically, who just takes innocent fans' money so WWE can have their garbage back? Too much, but whatever. So,
dude, the blue robe right there from the old days, man. That's
Starcade.
Dude, that's there's I mean, like you just can't beat what Flair would do, and that's a working $10,000 robe right there.
Yeah.
But still, it's iconic, and his look, he looked as only he could look, and he put on a show from the moment he walked out of the curtain. Just there he is, and you knew that the champ was here when he showed up in those robes. So in my mind, and it's because I'm a Southern boy, Southern wrestling was my thing. Ric Flair is the greatest of all time.
Not the same energy as the Hart Foundation there. That's more Adrian Adonis. Well, not quite though. He was dainty and fancy. But the thing is, Flair could back it up in the ring. He threw
Right.
the best punches. That's the thing about Flair. Like,
Yeah.
he had that training technique with the string, right? And
It's
Yeah,
very
the
weird
ropes.
to watch old Ric Flair matches or any old wrestling matches where someone throws a chop and the people don't go woo
Right.
because that's just what you were doing. It's like when Undertaker used to do old school, but no one yelled old school yet.
Right. Right.
It always
Yeah.
catches me off guard when I watch something old and I'm like, there's no woo. Oh, that's
I
right. 'Cause they're
appreciate
watching
there
the
being
match.
no. I appreciate there being no woo in those old
I
school
do
matches.
too because they're actually watching the match, but
Yep.
instead of waiting for their turn to yell things, but
Man, I remember that. I believe it was when they did back in the early '90s a pay-per-view from the Rising Sun, and it was Flair versus was it Pat Tanaka, and they do the whole match, and at the end of the match, they just showed a close-up because they had chopped back and forth so much. They showed a close-up of Flair's chest and Tanaka's chest, and it was like just bloody and blistered, and I mean, because they had really just chopped.
they had to get something off their chest. I do want to give one final styling fashion shout out to Double M himself, Michael Mercy, for intentionally blending in with his wall this entire time.
There you go.
I wish I could do the Predator. I wish I could do the Predator.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I hate that it's taken me this long to realize why the man loves Orange Cassidy so much. It's just it's orange.
Yeah,
that's been so amazing to me this entire time. I'm like, how does he? Where is he? Because you're buying a mic too. We're like, oh, geez, he's over. He's just there.
It's been in my way here.
Good
Good question from Aldry here. Is it harder to come up with great costumes than it was back in the day?
It might be easier because I think they have, at least in WWE and such, they probably have more help.
They have an actual wardrobe department.
Yeah. So that's my only guess is that, and there's probably more website. Well, there's websites, period, to actually order gear and have things where you didn't have to. The same way you used to not be able to find a wrestling school, you used to have to know someone in the business who would train you, or be a family member of the business somehow. You'd also have to know someone who made wrestling gear, which you wouldn't know if you weren't already in a wrestling business. So I would imagine today would be a hell of a lot more easier. It's my guess. I mean, I don't wrestle. I don't know, but that's my guess.
But I also look. I think that all you have to do as a performer is look at the landscape. I think in WWE they take steps to try to make everyone different from each other and to give each person a different look. But when you get some freedom, when guys get freedom, I think they've leaned so much into their influences and everything that a lot of the guys start to have the same look about them. And I think that you have to look and see, well, what's everyone else looking like? How do I go the completely different way from that to stand out among the crowd? Or how do I take something that doesn't seem to be working for everyone, like Danhausen? I can, he took something that no other indie guy was really making work because it was just a cheap ripoff of Sting or some other face painted.
People have accused him of that, but he has his own explanation. He's actually ripping off the villain from Poltergeist too.
Well, what I'm saying is if you look across the scope of the indies, though, as I said earlier, there's so many guys that are doing that, but he took it and said, here's what I'm going to do with this to elevate it. And I think that's kind of the thing. It's definitely, I don't think it's harder to find your own look nowadays. I think, really, if you just come out with a little bit of color on you, a little bit, just have something that pops from everyone else, because everyone dresses so dark. It's all black. It's all, come out bright and shiny. Chris Jericho does it all the time these days. He's like, how can I look different now? How can I look different now? And regardless of what you may think of Chris Jericho, he's at least putting the work in to try to separate himself from the rest of the pack as far as the look goes.
Look at Cody Rhodes, just flat out dressed to the nines. You don't always have to be.
I was just about to say Cody.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of his suits, but yeah, I guess that too. Wow, I didn't.
Well, that too, yeah. Yeah,
I love that Cody got into being the suit and tie kind of guy, especially so you'd see him behind the scenes, because that feels old school. That feels like a champion from back in the 80s. That feels like Flair and the Four Horsemen. They didn't walk around in track suits. They walked around, dressed nicely, ready to go. And
he's even wearing the baby blue that they used to wear on TBS.
Yep.
So he definitely. It's so it's interesting because his father is the Macandream, Dusty Rhodes, baby. So got to mention Dusty too. I mean,
Sure.
the old joke of, you know, the rib that he took and owned and made his own. Like, has anyone ever looked so good in polka dots?
Made
You
it
know,
work.
I gotta say though,
Macandream.
as a kid when he came out in the WWF in polka dots, it never dawned on me that he's wearing polka dots. What I was sitting there watching, like, there's Dusty Rhodes. That's the American Dream, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't care about what he had on.
He transcended polka dots.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that Cody would grow up to wear the suits that Dusty's arch rival would wear, you know,
Yeah.
or suits in the style of Ric Flair. So it's cool that he's kind of a blend of Dusty and Ric Flair. That you know, with all his battles with Flair, I guess, you know, Cody absorbed some of Dusty's arch nemesis instead of just being a clone of his father.
Well, Dusty wasn't scared to put on a suit from time to time if he had to.
Right. Or the giant oh, these are great. These look fantastic. Cody's such a good guy. I've had the opportunity to chat with him a couple of times on Twitter, and he's just a good dude.
I hope he's
heart.
he's able to kind of continue the trend that he began with when he gets back in the WWE. I think he will with Hunter running things. You know, he set such a great story arc up for himself, you know, to win the belt that they never let Dusty win.
Yeah.
And I think that if he can get some momentum and continue on with that story, that you can almost create a Daniel Bryan type thing where the fans will get behind him enough that they have to give him the shot. They have to let him, you know. And Cody would do such a great job of fighting from underneath against a heel Roman Reigns. You know, I think that the possibilities with this guy are endless. I've been sold on Cody Rhodes since his father's Hall of Fame induction speech that he gave, because Cody could talk even then. And man, listen, I bought the first AEW pay-per-view based on his promo he cut on Dustin, where like choked up about, you know, it's time to put you out to pasture, it's time to be done, and like he choked up talking about kind of letting it, and so that sold me. That one promo sold me on the whole thing, and the match didn't end up disappointing either. It didn't end up disappointing either. So I'm a Cody Rhodes apologist, man, all the way.
Nothing to apologize for. He's just he's a decent human being, and I wish him and his family all the best. I got to mention the Dusty Rhodes fur coat.
Oh yeah,
Dusty and Magnum came out one day wearing the fur coats. Was it like a record hot summer or something in the South? But is this an actual? Are these figure? Is that a custom? The fur coats. Yeah.
Yes.
They were making a lot of money back then.
That was 86 when they did that.
It's not just Dusty. Like I can see Dusty in the coat, but Magnum going along with this.
Hey, I missed it earlier, but Dale in the chat mentioned Liger, Jushin Thunder Liger. He's another really great look in the ring. He had that whole Power Rangers look about him.
Before Power Rangers.
Yeah,
that's an awesome one. Didn't change it up all that often.
Nope, he didn't have to. He looked like he stepped right out of a what we used to call the Japanime. You know, like he stepped right out of one of the old anime cartoons and action cartoons. And
well, if he's on American TV, I'm just thinking like early '90s. He wrestled Pillman and all that.
Yeah,
he didn't have to change it up because he's the only one.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. The bump looked real to me.
Look,
the torn pec.
Oh yeah, the torn.
I think he tore his pec. The dude was purple, but Seth Rollins basically had to wrestle Grimace inside a giant cage. It was, I mean, the dude, yeah. But
then that picture of Liger you just showed looks like a Robeast from Voltron or something, man. I mean, he just looks awesome.
Yeah, super cool and ageless too. I mean, the guy in his final match looked the same as he did in his first match. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks awesome.
Cool look.
Wow, that was more than a 60-minute match. We're going back to the 30s and 40s when wrestlers used to wrestle 2, 3. You hear the stories of, I wrestled George Hackenschmidt for 7 hours one time.
And the rounds and the rafters.
Yeah.
Edge Strangler Lewis just beat us with that headlock.
The high spot was a Beal.
Far out, man.
Hip toss into a pinfall.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox. All right, man. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
Rock and roll,
Awesome.
brother. Good
Thank you
times,
so
guys.
much.
Good hanging out.
Thanks everyone in the chat for hanging out with us too. That was awesome. And so the series will continue. So we more than talked about best looks, best entrance gear. Next one will either be in-ring work or promo. Maybe we should do promo and then finish it with in-ring work.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be back eventually. We'll work out schedules and come back with that one. But this has been a lot of fun. Thanks a lot for your time tonight, guys.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for setting it up. Good time, Double M. Doing the thing.
Thanks everyone in the chat. Appreciate it. And until next time, oh yeah, do the thing. Oh, I want to do some plugs before I sign off here. I always forget to do the plugs. Awesome Steve Glosson has Geek Out Loud.
That's me.
Tell him where to find it.
Best place is geekoutpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just look for Geek Out Loud. And we get a new episode about every 6 to 8 weeks. So, but it'll be 3 or 4 hours long when you get there. So there you go.
It's good stuff, man. Load it up on your iPod or what am I talking about? Your Walkman. Put it on your iPod Nano and go for a walk or a bike ride. And Bob, you've got Bob Squad YouTube channel.
Absolutely, but I've also always got a Dr. Pepper cream soda zero sugar handy to get the same refreshing taste. But anyway, without the sugar, without the calories.
The solo layout.
No, that's okay. But no, really, go to Coca-Cola.com/Dr. Pepper /cream soda.
What happens?
Zero sugar. Enter promo code Bob Squad, and you know what happens, Double M? Nothing, Daddy. Absolutely zero. Buck kiss, zero. Silks, nada. Nothing. No water in the pool. Like yesterday's breakfast out of here like Vladimir, Daddy. Oh, yeah. Bob Squad on YouTube. Find the Sun Bob shorts. I'm making those in the latest G.I. Joe feud, Insult to Ninjury. That's up to part 3 right now. So I'm doing that and on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. My stand-up comedy's there. At Bob Hansen Jokes on Instagram. I got my reels and everything. And if you're in the San Diego area, in California, America, North America, Earth, you can find me whatever. If you're in San Diego, hey, this Thursday, Best of San Diego Comedy Store La Jolla, 906 Pearl Street. Don't park at Vaughn's. 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Go see Bob. I'm around, man. I'm around. Bob Squad on YouTube. I'm around.
If someone heckles you, are you allowed to, do what the old wrestlers used to do when people jump the rail?
Michael.
That's basically like jumping the rail when they heckle a comedian.
They don't heckle me.
You're like Jim Neidhart in Pink. No one messes with me.
I'll move.
I'll move.
They don't. Nobody's playing with Bob. I'm not worried about it. Come on, Will Smith can come to my show. I'm not afraid.
Wow. Hey, thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.